Welcome back to another episode of Eagle versus Kiwi podcast, the show about living in America from the perspective of a New Zealander. So if you're new here, please share this with your friends, share this on your Facebook page, Instagram, Twitter, and if you really want to support the show, check us out on our Patreon page, which you can find at patreon.podbean.com/Eagle versus Kiwi podcast, and there you can pledge and you get rewarded in the process. A $1 or $5 amount, you'll get a sweet reward. On the show today, we are talking about look, it's a topic that I hate not to talk about, but just the fact that it kind of happens is New Zealand and Australia. When most Americans ask me about it, when they say, "Are you from Australia?" I'm like, no, I'm not. And then they go through the index of other places where I could be possibly from. And then when they never get it, because they never get it, some people do, but it's a very rare occasion, I'll say, I'm from New Zealand. Most people will follow up with either, that was my second guess, which it wasn't, or they're close enough, aren't they? As a joke, I'll say it, like, close enough. But when people say, it's the same thing, or they're close enough, isn't it? Like, no, it's not, you dumb motherfuckers. We have an entire sea that separates Australia to New Zealand. We have the Tasman Sea, one of the Pacific Oceans, that separates us from Australia. It's considered by slang. We're called the ditch. So if you're in New Zealand and you want to travel to New Zealand to Australia, most people say, "Oh, you're crossing the ditch." It's an entire ocean from New Zealand to Australia. It's 1,700 miles. That's the length. The max width is 1,400 miles. You dumb fucking pieces of shit. So when people say it's the close thing, it's as close and it's the same thing, it's not. It's not the same thing. And people say, "Oh, did I offend you?" Honestly, it doesn't offend me when people accidentally call me Australian. It really does not offend me. Because in the grand scheme of things, at least people know where the accent is. You know what I mean? Like, they give a roundabout way, you know? In Pittsburgh, it was funny. I was at work, and there was this guest in the store. She was trying on clothes, and she was offended that I was from New Zealand. I'm a foreigner. She said, I just like my clothes from America. The company that I'm working for is a Canadian company. So in my head, I'm like, this lady is just a dumbass fucking bitch. And she was wearing a really bedazzled Pittsburgh Steelers shirt, which is, again, fucking wear it, but know that you look like a fucking idiot. You know what I mean? Like, if you're going to wear a bedazzled shirt, no matter what gender you are, just know that you look really stupid. And that goes with anything bedazzled, a hat, a shirt, anything like that. You're going to look dumb. Yeah? Just know that. But when people assume that they're the same, I mean, Americans and Canadians sound the exact same to me. I can't find the difference. Apart from certain words, like sorry. Americans, sorry. Canadians, sorry. That's what it sounds like to me. They sound like some difference, but most of the time I can't pick it apart. And if we're going with the close enough factor, the only thing that's separating America and Canada is a fucking borderline. So if anything, you guys are closer compared to New Zealand and Australia. Just some people are just so dumb, or just assume that, that everything's the same. I mean, America in general is definitely the benchmark of what's cool and what's popular. And there are some Americans that know that, and that's what really bothers me. That's what really, really bugs me. Because they know that they're number one in the world, so they act like they're number one in the world. But I do love their nation's pride. I love the pride that they have in America. You know, when I was working at the CrossFit Regionals a couple of years ago, they did the national anthem before every event, every day, and everyone stood still. No matter where you are, everyone stood still. And I thought that was great. You know what I mean? And you can see the military men, you know, they're doing their thing, and which I love. I love how passionate Americans are about their nation, about them as a whole, as their country. I love that. I love that pride. Because that's what I feel for New Zealand. We are so small. We're tucked away in the corner of the world. You know, well, in a certain part of the world, because if I said corner, that would be me assuming the world is flat, and the world is not flat, you dumb motherfuckers. We're tucked in this little pocket of the world, and yet we're still a thriving nation. I don't know now because I've been out of New Zealand for the past 4 years, but we're still a thriving nation of Kiwis. We're still manufacturing things in New Zealand. We're still creating things. We're still, you know, up there with the world's best at what, you know, we've got world champion rugby teams, you know, not just a country, not just number one in the country, number one in the fucking world. We've got world record holders in our country. And for a small nation like New Zealand, I think it's 4.4 billion people, New Zealand population. Yeah, it's like 4.4. 4.6 million people. Comparative to 1960 when there were... when there was only 2.3 million to now 4.6 million people as of 2016, I should say, which is just last year. The population is growing. Fuck. In 2000, 4.6, no, 3.8, 4.0, 4.1. Dang, just gradually growing. But for a small nation, we're doing bloody well. We're not doing that bad. So when people say to me, and I'm on at work or something, and people are like, "Oh, it's the same thing." It's like, no, it's not. You dumb motherfucker. Look at a map. Just look at a map. We talk somewhat the same. I mean, we've got the same slangs, but the accents are different. You know what I mean? The accents are completely different. And most people won't know that unless you live there. If you've got a friend from Australia, if you're an American, you've got a friend from Australia, you will probably hear it out. You know, you'll probably hear it. You have to spend a decent amount of time to live in either country, New Zealand or Australia, to pick out the accents. But if you're an American and you've never been, or you've watched a lot of Flight of the Conchords, or you've watched a lot of Summer Heights High, you're not going to know fucking shit. Alright, so shut the fuck up. Just shut up. Just shut up. Don't look at me and say it's the same, because it's not. It's definitely not. And what I love the most is when people tell me that I'm from Australia, or are you sure that you're from Australia? See, that stuff offends me, because that's you being a fucking stereotypical cunt, telling me what I am and what I'm not. You know what I mean? I know where I was born. Wanganui Hospital, July 30th, 1987, to my mother. I know where I was born, and I know where my hometown is. I know my hometown is 15,000 population. I know where I went to school. You know what I mean? I know my first address of my house, where I lived. And then we've got these dumb Americans that tell me, "Are you sure you're not from Australia?" Or, "You've got to be from Australia. You sound like an Australian." Yeah, guess what? You sound like a fucking cunt. You sound like a prick. Are you sure you're not a prick? Because you sound like a cunt. You know what I mean? Like, it just bothers me so much. And at the same time, in my head, I'm going, these people are just uneducated. They don't know what they're talking about. They may have been on the earth longer than me, but I know where I'm from, and I know where you're from. Dumb land. You're from dumb land. This is a new place, Dum Dum Land. You are from Dum Dum Land. But that's okay. You can't win them all. You know what I mean? Look, if you want to support this show, please go to Patreon, patreon.podbean.com/Eagle vs. Kiwi podcast. Become a Patreon for the show today and support this show on a month-to-month basis. When I say month-to-month, that means you are not signing any contracts. You can cancel your pledge at any time, okay? And you'll get a sweet reward for just $1. Okay, we only have $1 and $5 amounts because I don't want to be a fucking greedy cunt, all right? $1, you'll get a sweet email saying thank you from me. Your names will be on the credits on the Podbean website, and I'll follow you on your social media channel. And if you pledge $5, you get everything from the previous $1 amount, and you'll get your name shout out on the beginning and the end of every single Eagle vs. Kiwi podcast, okay? As long as you pledge. If you stop, then I'll stop saying your fucking name, all right? Our goal is to get $200 a month. Here's the reason why. It's production costs. It's to keep our website up and running. It's to keep this audio sounding crisp and clean. And we want to add a video aspect to it. So we want to put more money into having a quality video. Because right now on my other podcast, I've got a video and it's not the greatest in the world. But I know for this show, I know that we can make an amazing thing for this show. So $200. $200 is the most realistic as well. I could have been a fucking asshole and said, give me $5. But what is $500 going to have? You know what I mean? I could get the top of the line camera. I could get the top of the line microphone. I could get the solid premium account for the Podbean website. But here's the thing. Why? You know what I mean? I mean, these microphones are great, but I want to upgrade them a little bit. I don't want to go too crazy. You know what I mean? I don't want $1,000 fucking microphone. I just want one that's not $15 to $20 anymore. I want to get a little bit more expensive. Not $1,000 because then you're just showing off. Camera for the video, I want to get a GoPro. You know, I'll buy a secondhand GoPro. You know what I mean? I don't want a brand spanking new one. A secondhand one's like $50 to $100. You know what I mean? I got tripods. $200 will keep this website up going. You know? So please, if you want to support this show, go to patreon.podbean.com/Eagle vs. Kiwi podcast and pledge today. Okay. So that's the podcast done. If you're a fan of the podcast, if you want to share this with your friends, please do so on your Facebook page, on your Instagram page, Twitter page. Do all that cool stuff. This will mean a lot to me, and it will get this show into more ears of Americans, Canadians, New Zealanders, Brazilians, Chinese people, ghosts, the Yeti, Bigfoot, Loch Ness Monster, caterpillars, moths, all the most important people in the world. Okay? So please share it. It'll mean a lot to me. It'll mean a lot to us. And I love you forever and ever. And follow us on Podbean. And check us out on Instagram as well. At Eagle vs. Kiwi Podcast. We've got a new Instagram page. I'm trying to keep a low-key, kind of tight-knit community for this podcast because it's a fun little project for me to do. It's a nice little side project. And it's a topic that I feel very passionate about because it's questions I annoyingly get asked every day. So I thought I could do this podcast to give more in-depth detail on the show. You know what I mean? Answers, more in-depth answers, I should say. All right. So, do that. Thank you for listening. Goodbye.